Happy Thursday! Browns are on tonight, so this is going to be a great show leading into Browns Steelers. Huge game in the Horseshoe. This is a great week for Ohio football. The Bucks host the Indiana Hoosiers on Saturday. Whew, what a game is coming this way. We're going to give you our 5 reasons why Ohio State will get it done and beat the Indiana Hoosiers. Never fear. Kirk and Nevada are here. We'll give you the latest on the Inside Buzz from inside the Woody Hayes. Take your questions as always. If you guys enjoy this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, also click that little alert bell. Again, we appreciate you guys joining us each and every night. If you guys want to do something fantastic for us, please, by all means, follow us on Apple Podcasts. A lot of you guys are heeding the call. We're seeing the numbers kind of creep up a little bit, so it's been great. Thank you so much for that. Also, follow us on Spotify, completely free. And if you want the best Christmas present in the history of mankind, join BuckeyeScoop.com because we're on that thing all day and it is on fire right now. It is the hottest club in the world is Club Buckeye Scoop, where we are on that thing and people are joining it, and there's a lot of information flowing around, a lot of great people. Some of the most influential people around Ohio State pay to belong to BuckeyeScoop.com. So you're in with the who's who of Ohio State crowds. And who's behind some of these screen names? You'd be shocked at some of the names, but big time people around the university are on BuckeyeScoop.com. So pay attention to some of these people that are talking because they're really on the inside. So we appreciate you guys that are part of that community. We're going to get right into it though, Nevada. We're going to do the 5 reasons why Ohio State is going to beat Indiana. I will let you start it off, or do you want me to start it off? We didn't talk about this in pre-show. Essentially, whoever goes first has to do 3. Do you have enough in you to think of 3 reasons why the Ohio State Buckeyes could potentially beat the Indiana Hoosiers?
Oh, I've got plenty of reasons, but I do want to start the show. I want to acknowledge Michigan. It sounds like they got Bryce Underwood to flip from LSU to Michigan today, which is quite an accomplishment. Something that I frankly didn't think that was possible. That LSU frankly didn't think was possible, and I know a lot of Ohio State fans are like, I don't know, they're drawing some sort of connection between this and this means the NCAA is not going to do anything. No, this just means they dropped a big check on Underwood's door, and he's got the ability at any time to move on to.
I was pouring for the record, so you have to adjust your noise. But let me hit my new mute button.
Yeah, he's got the ability to move on to the school anytime. But I didn't think they could pull it off. So I always want to be fair on the show. I give them credit where credit's due. Would I trade Tavian St. Clair, Julian Saint in our quarterback room for Bryce Underwood or anything that's going on at Michigan? No, because the one thing I've learned from watching college football over the years is it's systemic. It's not about just throwing money at an issue, kind of like what Texas A&M did famously, where they jumped into NIL, sort of tossing a bunch of money at it, and then failed spectacularly. I mean, that's kind of what. No matter what Michigan does, Sharon Moore is their head coach. Until Sharon Moore barely functions at the level above an idiot. So until they get a new head coach, it doesn't matter who they get. And so they'll get a recruit here, they'll get a recruit there by throwing a bunch of money at them, and you still have Sharon Moore as the coach. You still have a staff that is a D- staff, and that's being generous. You still have a roster that's devoid of talent. So I just think I chuckle when I see it, but I do want to give them credit because, like I said, I did not think they could get Underwood away from LSU. LSU didn't think, and to hear LSU screaming about somebody else buying a recruit is kind of funny, and did make me chuckle. But I did want to I want to start off the show by acknowledging good day for Michigan. If you're a Michigan fan, it's a good day. It's a good get for them. Do I think it's going to make any difference? No. Do I think he's ever going to make a difference at Michigan? No. I frankly don't think he's going to play at Michigan. But we'll see. So the number 5 reason why Ohio State will beat Indiana this week, I'm going to go with the Ohio State defense. The Ohio State defense. This is a good matchup for them. I think when you've got a team that the quarterback's not particularly dynamic and mobile. Or not particularly. I mean, he'll run, but he's not particularly dynamic and mobile. Their wide receivers are just okay. Their running back is fine, but their offensive line really got manhandled against Michigan. I don't think physically they can hold in there against the defensive pressure. And I think the defense is the way that the defense is kind of evolving. And there are certain teams that are good matchups and bad. Oregon's a tough matchup for Ohio State because they can threaten on the outside. They've got the big speed to threaten on the outside, to stretch the field, to make Caleb Downs kind of creep out of the box, to kind of play that Tampa to those two deep safeties. Indiana doesn't have that, and if you don't have that, and we can put Caleb Downs into the box and get him closer to the line of scrimmage, I think it really creates problems for them. I think the OSU defense is my number 5 reason why Ohio State wins the game on Saturday and covers the spread. So the number now is 11.5, 12. I've got Ohio State covering the spread, winning. Number 5 reason, the Ohio State defense.
Yeah, I think that I was going to use the defense. I was going to use the red zone defense because, again, as much as people hate Jim Knowles for whatever insane reason, we're number 1 in the country in red zone defense by like a country mile. And again, we stopped Oregon on the 1 foot line. I mean, they could have scored and salted the game away. They had to kick a 19-yard field goal. Stuffed Penn State, 3 chances from like the 3-yard line. So, like, I don't know what this defense and specifically Jim Knowles has to do to for people to understand how good that is, especially in modern college football, where with the spread and with running quarterbacks and with read option, RPOs, all the stuff you can do in the red zone now. It's like, for our red zone defense to be that elite is crazy. And you can't say like we haven't played it, but we played Oregon at Oregon, Penn State at Penn State. I don't know. Number 4 for me, and I gotta get my little doohickey turned on here. Let's see if this is up and running. The talent gap, and I've talked about this a million times, and I know you guys listen to me because, again, the folks that follow this show are the smartest Ohio State fans by far. Because you guys want to know what's really going on. Nevada and I, we shoot it straight. We're right down the middle. We're fair. We're balanced. It's what we like to do. So I've said over and over again, and this graphic came out today, and I was like, I can't wait to use this on the show. The talent advantage that we have is massive. So, I know Indiana's 5-star and Kirk Yeti's Mr. Butter smooth talker and whatever, and he pontificates about how, Google us and all that. I'm like, well, I can Google the recruiting rankings and say, look, we have 14 5-star players on our roster. We have 55 4-star players, and we have 11 3-stars. So everyone, talent doesn't matter until it matters. And I promise you, like, when our 5-stars are JJ Smith and Emeka Egbuka, Trey Henderson, I think Quinshawn was a 4-star. But some of these guys are playing like 5-stars, like Will Howard, like Quinshawn. Donnie Jackson, our left tackle, was a 5-star. Both of our ends were 5-stars. Eventually, like, that adds up. It isn't like, it all gets deleted. And, these kids, when you're a 3-star kid, again, I was a 3-star kid. So I'm one of the 57 on Indiana. I was a lot closer to being an Indiana Hoosier than a Buckeye. Because, again, like, Ohio State didn't offer me till real late in the process. But I'm just telling you, like, there is a sizable talent gap. Ryan Day is holding a royal flush in his poker hand this week. So if Kirk Yeti can beat him with a pair of deuces, then it's on the coaching staff. And again, I know Seth McLaughlin got hurt, fantastic player, but Austin Sauerveld's a 4-star guy. He'll step in there. Austin Sauerveld, and I've been saying this, and I'm going to leave this for a later part when I talk about the offensive line. He was in the last drive of the game versus Oregon on the road versus 55, Derek Harmon, who's their best player on defense, and he locked him up. Did a fantastic job. So I think Austin's ready for the moment. I think Carson is going to eat. But the talent gap is astounding. Like if you blindfolded everybody and you didn't know the records and didn't know the coaches and you just went based purely on the talent, I mean, come on, guys. Like, you guys can read. This is crazy. So, again, this is why you recruit. This is why you evaluate. Frankly, this is why, donating to NIL funds like the foundation and retaining the roster and upgrading the roster and getting Caleb Downs, who's another 5-star, it matters. Because then you end up with, Sonny Styles is a 5-star. He's starting to come on. So the talent gap is astounding. Now, And again, the other thing I've said is if you switch the team's schedules and Indiana had to go on the road to Penn State, do they get out of there alive? I don't think so. There's no way they win in Outson. There's no way. They beat a bad Washington team that was poorly coached. They beat the worst Michigan team in 14 years. So I think the talent gap is reason number 4 for me because, again, if Ryan Day is dealt a royal flush and somehow loses the poker hand, then that's on him. That's not on the players. Nevada, what is your third reason?
My third reason's going to be Will Howard. Will Howard, obviously the great equalizer, a guy that clearly came into the season with running chops, a guy, the double-digit career rushing TDs. We knew that he'd be able to reintroduce the dual threat portion into the Ohio State quarterback room, and a room that hadn't had a rushing TD out of QB1 in 3 years. But his passing has just been really on point. And he had his best game of the year throwing the ball down the field against Northwestern, and it's not close. I mean, that's probably the best game of his career throwing the ball. So he's really getting better. I think he's 4th in the nation or 2nd in the nation in QBR. Ohio State, you talked about the great Ohio State defense and their red zone efficiency. The Ohio State offense red zone efficiency is like 87% touchdowns. One of the few times they didn't score a touchdown in the red zone was when Will actually fumbled at the 6-inch line or whatever it was against Penn State. So that's how close they are to almost having like a perfect scoring record in the red zone. They've been unbelievable. Having Will, a guy that's got 40 career starts or whatever it is under his belt, played in the big games, won the Big 12 championship at Kansas State, been on the road at Penn State, been on the road at Oregon. I think Will Howard is, coming. He's playing his best football of the year right now. Coming home, I think he'll be reason number 3 that Ohio State wins and wins comfortably on Saturday.
I think for the team going forward, like with the next pick, I see the offensive line. The offensive line is they're gonna step up. I mean, this is kind of their moment with Seth, and so. But my reason number 2 is going to be Quinshon Judkins and Trey Henderson running the ball. I think Ryan has to protect Austin Seyerveld. I think that he has to, he has to get these guys comfortable early in the game, and I think you do that by running the ball, and specifically by running Will Howard, running the read option, so that it's a little easier to block. Teams can't cheat as much when you know that you're gonna pull the ball with the quarterback on the read option. So to me, I think that the running game is going to be huge in this game because Indiana is going to blitz the crap out of us. They have to. When you get the luck and again, it's broke that Seth McLaughlin, the center, is out. You would think you have to get after these guys. Now, Indiana knows that Carson Hism started 12 games at center last year, so it's not going to be a complete debacle. It's not going to be like starting Matt Jones. But I think it's going to be one of those things where, it's got to be, it's got to be something that Ryan Day has got to make a priority is to run the ball early in this game, and get these guys comfortable, because it's a lot easier for these guys to grow confidence through the beginning of the game by running it than it is by passing it, potentially giving up quarterback hit, a sack, anything like that. Like, I think that every young lineman, you can protect them a little bit by running the ball. And plus you can run some stuff where they really don't have to block anybody. I talk all the time about nakeds and misdirection and quick throws. Those take a lot of the pressure and a lot of the heat off the offensive line. So as Austin can settle in and these guys can settle in versus Indiana. And again, I'm not scared of Indiana's front at all. But when you've got a new guy making another start, and again, we are blessed that we've had Austin. We've seen him in primetime versus Oregon. He started games early when Donnie was out, but then all of a sudden, it just is. It's a deal where he played that last drive against Oregon, played really well, gives me a lot of confidence going into this game. So he's been in the biggest moment of the season, like the biggest, toughest pressure cooker of the year was the last drive versus Oregon, and Austin Seyerveld was in there at right guard. So that gives me a lot of confidence. Carson obviously has played fantastic the last few weeks, starting with the Penn State game where he got a winning performance. So I'm I'm just really excited. Like I said, I'm really excited to see Austin out there. Obviously it's heartbreaking for Seth, but with Chip Kelly's scheme and with fantastic skill players, specifically our two running backs, I think it can overcome any deficiency or any minor inconvenience that comes when you lose a great center. Because Seth, very good player, midseason All-American, but our staff does a great job of development. Because one of the things that Nevada and I fought all off season was the fact that some of these transfer people, there were narratives about Will Howard not being any good, getting beaten out at Kansas State. There were narratives about Seth McLaughlin being terrible because he had bad snaps versus Michigan. And I was like, well, guys, how about we let him get into our system with our strength coach and with our offensive line coach, our quarterback developer, and Chip Kelly, along with Ryan Day, who's the best quarterback developer in the world right now. And let's see if that can make them better. And it turns out I was right. And they both have played like All-Americans thus far through the thing. So do I think that Austin Sauerveld has gotten better over the last month or so since we played Oregon? Yeah, absolutely. I think he's gonna really play well. But you got to protect him. Again, there's he's not an infant tiger cub where you have to protect him. But I mean, you gotta do some things like don't put these guys in bad situations. Because again, when Donnie had to go out to left tackle versus Penn State, I thought we did a terrible job of protecting Donnie. And Donnie's a big boy. He's an All-American. He's a guy that should have been a captain. But they put him out on an island versus a guy who's the best pass rusher in the country. And I thought that was a terrible spot to put him in when you didn't have to do that. Because again, it's not like Penn State had two of those guys. They had one. It's one thing if a team's got two superstar edge rushers, but most teams only have one. And don't let that guy beat you. Nevada, your final pick for our 5 reasons why Ohio State will beat Indiana.
Well, before I go to number one, I got a question for you because I've kind of wondered this. And when Ohio State lines up generally at the beginning of games, they line up and they'll go in the I formation, and it seems like more often than not they'll run, for lack of a better term, they'll run Dave, to one side or another, with I'd say mixed success, but I'd say generally lack of success because the defense generally knows that's coming. They sell out to stop it, and they get stoned. Why do you think Ohio State's? Do you think Ryan Day is trying to set a tone? Do you think he's trying to prove something? What's the rationale for not running zone read action or doing something where there's some sort of question about where the ball's going to go, as opposed to running right in and setting up 2nd and 9 like we seem to do way too often early in games?
I mean, sometimes you do it to try to set a tone, establish some sort of physicality. Again, with plays like that where there's a double team on the front side, I think that it can add some value as the game goes along. And, as you to use the boxing term, body blows, when you are constantly wearing out a 3 technique and double teaming him time after time, by the 3rd and 4th quarter, he's usually toast and he's not really going to be about that. And that was something that Michigan was really good about last year. They would run it and they wouldn't give up on it. And by the 3rd and 4th quarter, teams would start to break and the dams would kind of break open a little bit. So I think that there's something to that. Again, it's going to sound stupid when I say this, but not every play has to be a home run or has to be completely efficient. Because if you get good, solid double teams on guys and start beating the tar out of them, I think eventually they start to break. Not could be wrong, but again, you got to remember I played in the Jim Truss offense where that's literally all we did. We had the least deceptive offense of all time, as you guys know. Wasn't hard to stop. We ran we didn't run a lot of plays, but we were good at them, and we would break teams. That was what we did. We weren't smash and dash, especially my senior year when we didn't have Ted and Gonzo. It was ground and pound and run the ball. But I think that as I've gotten older, especially with a quarterback like Will Howard, especially in a big game, I am much more in the RPO read option world than I am in the let's just run the ball and try to get 2 yards, because I think teams, when they see Ryan has that tendency to do that, they have a tendency to load the box and bring the house. And, because if you guess right, then all of a sudden it's like a casino blitz and jackpot. We get a tackle for a loss or 1 yard gain and the stadium starts to boo. And, it's really easy to get our crowd to turn on us in the horseshoe. You get a couple bad runs, man, and you hear the boos coming real quick. So, in a game like this, I go more read option because you take the shackles off Will Howard and you let him run and let his legs win the game for you, because his legs will be huge in this game. I think that's going to be something that, you can run the ball, keep. Indiana's got an explosive offense, but they're not explosive when they're on the bench drinking Gatorade. They're only explosive when they're on the field. So you want to grind that clock, and that means you got to run Will Howard 15 times and do it. I mean, he's a horse, and like I said, I like the read options where you get him out on the edge and he can slide and protect himself. I think that those are the way to go. Does that explain it clearly? Because again, like with Tress, that was like all we did was just try to body blow guys, and when we beat them up, all of a sudden, and you could feel guys break later in games when they get sick of getting double teamed. I mean, when I was a player in the NFL and I was backup, like when you're in practice, like I would have to be the 3 technique, and I get double teamed by gigantic 330-pound linemen, and I'd get hit like 3 or 4 times. I'd be like, man, this sucks. I can see why these guys hate doing it in a real game, but I do it just because the young guys usually are, the veterans are never the practice dummies. So I'd always have to be in there getting double teamed, and it sucked. You're getting rocked, and I was like, I can see why guys would hate doing this in a real game, but does that answer it for you?
Yeah, no, I was just kind of curious because it just seems like it's so predictable. You can almost set your watch by it. I mean, it'll be interesting to see how Ryan comes out this week, at home, and which leads to my number one reason. The number one reason why I said I'm gonna put it. It's a general. I'll say the atmosphere of the game, just the whole. I think the moment's going to be too big for Indiana, and the more that they talk about how it's just another game, and now that it's their first top 5 matchup in the history of their program. It's our third in the last 6 games. I think the crowd is going to be a major factor for them, because I just don't think you can. I don't think any of those guys have ever played in a situation where they just can't hear cadence, and they're going to be in that situation this weekend. It's going to be crazy. The Ohio State players are already going to be jacked. Given the importance of the game, the fact that they've only got 2 games left at the horseshoe, the additional emotional stuff of losing Seth, and Seth kind of inspiring them on. I mean, Seth was a real, for the guys, man. When you talk to the players, they're all fired up to win it for him, and he feels bad about the circumstances and how it went, and the guy transfers from Alabama to try to come here to have a chance to win a national championship, and he's not going to be there for him, and now they're getting questioned by the national media. I think they thrive on that doubt. I think they thrive on people, having questions, and questions about Will Howard's ability to lead the team, questions about the offensive line's ability to protect him, about the defense to make key stops and get off the field. And I just think it's going to be the atmosphere of the game, the moment, and the crowd combined. That's going to be the number one reason why Ohio State's going to prevail on Saturday against Indiana, and I'm saying it right now, and cover the spread. And I generally don't throw that out there like that, but I really do believe that I believe that's going to happen this weekend.
Well, when you look at the talent and you look at the fact that they haven't played in a big game yet. They played Michigan, a bad Michigan team, and Michigan, they're competitive and they have no offense, no throwing game, terrible offensive line, and they were competitive with them. So like, what happens when you play Ohio State now? And Ohio State, we're like 23 point. I mean, we're huge favorites over Michigan, minus 4,000 on the money line. So, I mean, this is who you're going to see, and this is in Columbus, which is going to be, I think it'll be loud and it'll be chilly, and it'll be one of those games where I think that these guys they're gonna show out. I feel like there are times in life where I felt like teams were, I don't want to say overrated, but overranked for sure, and this is one of them. We played Texas in the 1-2 game in 2006, and I just remember looking at that team and how much they'd lost, and they didn't have Vince Young anymore, and I was like, they're not the number 1 team. They ended up having like 3 or 4 losses that year. They had Colt McCoy, who ended up being a great player, but he's a freshman. And I was like, well, I'll take our chances against a freshman quarterback. And, they still had Jamal Charles, and they still had Jermichael Finley. And, like, they had really good players, but they didn't have Vince anymore. So I was like, I think we can get these guys, and we beat them, and it was sound. And I feel like that's kind of like how this game is, where I don't think every top five matchup is the same, and I think that Indiana's had an exceptionally fortunate schedule. They caught UCLA early. UCLA started to come on a little bit. They were terrible early in the season. I don't know. Like it's hard for me to buy it because, like I said, the talent gap is great, and I think that some of the bluster. I think the coach is going out of his way. He was real blustery versus when he was on Urban Meyer's podcast, and I watched it, and he's doing interviews, and I think that that's kind of to, when his players are scared, he's trying to like have some false bravado to inspire confidence in those guys, because these kids though, like I said, these kids have grown up going against Jack Sawyer and JT and guys all over the roster. And they've seen how good those guys are. They've seen them at camps, and they've seen them as 5-stars, and they've seen them in high school, and and they've never really thought they could beat them. Now they'd want to compete against them, but Indiana's a lot closer to Northwestern than they are Ohio State, in my opinion. But again, the coach does a good job, and like I said, they've had the softest schedule in the Big Ten thus far. And again, they've beat Michigan, but if you take the wings off the Wolverine helmet, then I don't think that it's comparative, in my opinion. So, any other thoughts to that? I thought that was a good list. Anything else you want to add? We can start digging into some super chats.
No, I just I'm excited for the game. I think it's it's a amazing opportunity for Ohio State to showcase what they have, and I think they've been building, getting better each week, and I think this is going to be another step on the way to the national championship. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah. All right. Let's dig into some of these. Appreciate you guys. Jermaine Gorns, I hope you're having a great night. Thank you for the 10, my friend. If the Buckeyes have success on the offensive line for the rest of the season, does that mean that Justin Frye should not be fired, even though he isn't a good recruiter? Well, yeah. I mean, if we, and again, I don't know what, I'll let you go on this, Nevada. Like, what would define success the rest of the year on the offensive line? Is it the offense operates like it has been with Seth? Because again, I know Justin gets killed for being a bad recruiter, but I also want to say that same token, like, look, we've got for as much grief as he takes, like, we got Austin Seyerveld, he's in there. Carson, I think, is going to play really well. Donnie was a stud guy, so was Carson. A lot of these guys are stud guys, but you got to give Justin Frye credit for Josh Simmons, who was an All-American before he got hurt. You got to give him credit for Seth McLaughlin, who was an All-American before he got hurt. And then you see this depth coming into play, and I think Austin's going to play well. I really do. But what are your thoughts about it? What defines good for the offensive line the rest of the way? Because that's something that, does that mean you have to win the national title? Do you have to win the Big Ten title? Do you have to the offense, stay at the same pace? Because it's hard to lose 2 All-American linemen and still be proficient. But I think we can do it with Chip Kelly's system. But what are your thoughts?
Well, I think it's really, it's kind of the old Justice Potter thing about, he knows pornography when he sees it. I think we know good offensive line play when we see it, and we know bad offensive line play when we see it. And I just want to have good offensive line play. I'm not as concerned about the recruiting stuff with Justin as I am about how the team performs. And, I think, Ohio State fans are always been down on the offensive line coaches about recruiting. They were down on Stud. I pushed back on that for 5 years and took a lot of grief. And now people realize that his recruiting was legendarily good. But it took a while. Sometimes it takes a while for people to kind of take a step back, and they're like, oh, wow, Nevada, you were right. He was unbelievable as a recruiter, just like absolutely unbelievable. So I think with Frye, where the guys are ranked is not as important to me as how they perform. So as long, the fact that we're down, 3 starters, Zen, Josh, and Seth, we'll see how the line is. If the line's still functioning after you lose 3 starters, I mean, heck, we've had seasons where our starting 5 played and didn't miss a snap, where we didn't lose a single snap to your starting 5. This year we've lost 3 starters. And if we can still continue to function and do it at a decent level, I think that Justin deserves all the credit in the world for that. there's Oracle put out a thing today. I don't know. I mean, Oracle says it, so I'm sure it's true. He said that Justin's in line or interviewing for the Ball State job. So, Justin may move on regardless, and so we may have a new offensive line coach at some point. We can find somebody else to hate in terms of doing that. But no, that my answer is just, yeah. If he can still field a functioning offensive line after losing 3 starters, then I tip my hat to him, and I think he deserves all the credit in the world for that.
Yeah, and like Justin wants to be a head coach worse than anything in the world. And honestly, like I think that's something I totally remiss is that he was a captain at Indiana. Like he was a center there, was a good average player to good player there, but he he wants to be a head coach, and again I think that he's got a more well-rounded mind than I would have had because he became a coordinator, and when I was coaching, all I cared about was offensive line. I didn't care about, but with the guys like Urban and Chip Kelly, you have to learn everything, which is good, makes you more versatile. But I think Justin, this is a great test. Now, again, I can go back in time 10 years. We just saw the anniversary and saw Darryl Baldwin and Jacoby Bourne and Elfline and Billy Price and Taylor Decker. And, this line is maybe not quite as talented, just because obviously, that ended up being 2 first-round picks. But, Billy was a redshirt freshman. So, I mean, Billy is a senior versus Billy is a freshman, obviously 2 different players. Elfline ended up being a second-round pick. You had 2 Remington winners on that. But talent-wise, like I think it was pretty close to this line. Like, I mean, you could argue Jacoby and Carson Hinsman are a push. Young Billy Price and Austin Sowerville. Billy's probably a little bit better. Elfline and Tigra. Elfline's a little bit better at this point. Darryl and Fryer, I'd say Fryer's probably better. Then obviously, with Donnie and Taylor, obviously Taylor was better. Taylor ended up being a first round pick, but Donnie's not that far off. So we've won more with less. And I think that, I don't want to say we have better skill, but I think it's close. To the 14 team, we might have better skill. I mean, I know we're deeper, because as much as I love Ezekiel, like I would take, if you said Kirk, you could either have Ezekiel or Quinshon and Trey Henderson. I was like, give me Quinshon and Trey every day of the week, and especially when there's a 14 or a 4-game potential playoff you have to play through. I take Will Howard over Cardell. Love Cardell, but I think Will Howard's better everything. Maybe the deep ball might be Cardell's edge, but I don't know. I mean, I think Will Howard's proficiency has been incredible. Our receivers for this group are much better than that group, in my opinion. So yeah, like I think that this is a pretty close offense, but I think Ryan and Justin have their work cut out for them. But Chip Kelly's offense is very offensive line friendly, and he's shredded teams throughout his career at Oregon, UCLA. I mean, when he was second in the nation at UCLA in rushing the ball, like he didn't have Jonathan Ogden, who was the best player in probably UCLA football history. He didn't have a bunch of first rounders out there. He had a bunch of guys that were mid to late round or undrafted guys. But his scheme was so good that it didn't really matter. So, again, I think that's something that I hang my hat on is that I love Chip's scheme. And, now when you have that scheme plus great linemen, then it turns into a bludgeoning every week. But I think that Chip's scheme is very offensive line friendly. And Chip's scheme plus Quinshon and Trey Henderson is euphoria. Trestles Spectacles, thanks for the 20. Appreciate you, my friend. My friend keeps telling me that Michigan sanctions came out in April. No. He sent me several articles stating that from different sources. I keep telling him that nothing has been officially announced yet. Your thoughts? Nevada, I'll let you go on this. And OH.
Yeah, yes, different scandals. It's hard with Michigan because there's so many scandals. That was for their first scandal that they called Cheeseburger Gate, but was really for Jim Harbaugh lying to the NCAA. Basically, the NCAA had found out that he had met with recruits during the dead period during COVID when they were not allowed to be meeting with recruits, and he denied it. He said, nope, I never met with that guy. I never met with that kid. I never met with the dad. And when they done the interview with the kid and the dad said, no, of course we met with him. We had breakfast. We remember because he ordered a cheeseburger for breakfast. And it was really weird that this guy ordered a cheeseburger for breakfast. My dad and I both talked about it. And we're like, wow, that was the weirdest thing we've ever seen. And so the NCAA went to Jim Harbaugh's expense report, and it has a receipt. And sure enough, on the day that he said it, there was a breakfast place, and he had ordered a cheeseburger for breakfast and had two other people with him. So they knew he was lying. They presented that to him, and he still lied. He still said, "No, that I know that still it wasn't me. I've never met with the kid." So that's why they got hit the first time for the sanctions. So that was a completely different scandal, unrelated to the sign stealing, advanced scouting, electronic surveillance type of scandal that just cost Jim McElwain his job at Central Michigan, which is kind of crazy. So no, they haven't been hit with this one at all. That was a completely separate scandal.
Yeah, and like again with Jim Harbaugh, he showed up at like 6 a.m. for breakfast. I mean, I heard this firsthand. He ordered a cheeseburger and a glass of milk. So if you're sitting there and you're a kid and his dad and you're meeting and you're not supposed to be whatever, and the guy's either a serial killer or he's the weirdest human being in the world, which, I mean, Jim Harbaugh is definitely the weirdest person in the world. But it shows you the depth of, I mean, I want to say deception, but it's like, they're just dumb. At some point, you're just dumb. Like at some point when they've got all the receipts and they've got 6 people saying, well, yeah, you were there. And then you've got, eventually it's better just to cop to it and plea it out than it is to, oh no, couldn't have been me. That wasn't me. I was not there. It's like, well, here's a receipt that says you had a milk and a cheeseburger at 6 a.m. at the Brown Keg or whatever the stupid places in Michigan where these guys, the M Den or whatever. But I don't know. I mean, because it's like Connor Stalions. Like Connor Stalions, I mean, he's from the Jim Harbaugh school of just being a dunce and sitting there and saying, well, I don't know if that's me on the sideline, and I've gone to thousands of games, and I buy tickets for my mom. I make $50,000, but I spend $100,000 on tickets to the Rutgers Illinois game in December to send my mom to because I just want to do for my family. Like, I mean, some of this stuff, I'm just like, I mean, I know that you guys think that the NCAA is dumb, but I mean, I could have solved this case in 5 minutes. Like, give me in a room with these guys. I'll ask about 10 questions and then I'll write the sentence out because this is almost too easy. But no, that was from Cheeseburger Gate. That has been, I mean, what Harbaugh get? How many years of a show cost? 3 or 4 or 5 or whatever. Like, I mean, and that was for a cheeseburger. That wasn't even for cheating and all the stuff that he did with this next one. So. Down on Karen Rosbeck, thanks for the 5. Once Michigan gets hammered, Bryce Underwood will go to another team. He will not want to stay and not play championships and bowl games. Nevada OH. Well, if he's getting $10 million from Dave Portnoy, like, I mean, he'll stay for a year. And I'm sure he'll get his first check, which will, again, I don't know if the 10 million is over 5 years, if it's over 1 year. I think with the market that I hear developing, that could be over 1 year. So after a year, if it ain't all kosher, then it could be out skis. Because, like, again, I've seen the QB movie before. You look at, I think you're insane if you pay a freshman quarterback, a kid who's coming out of high school, that kind of money. Portal quarterback? Oh, yeah, I do that all day. For a kid who's coming out of a high school freshman who's probably going to stink his freshman year, can't do it. Like, if you could get Shedeur Sanders to come back for a senior year, I'd give him $10 million tonight. But if you're going to do that for a kid who's a freshman, there's no way. Because, again, like, it's all beautiful and lovely until the development doesn't happen. Because, like, you look at Dylan Raiola. I mean, Dylan Raiola, he had a foot in the transfer portal because Nebraska's been so bad and he's been so poor. And he's on the road to being an undrafted free agent. And so they go out and hire the guy, Dana Holgerson, as a special analyst to help try to get the quarterback room going. But, these quarterbacks, I'm telling you, when you're a player and a coach and a family, it's like managing a lottery ticket. It really is. I mean, again, like I was right front row for the Quinn Ewers thing. Like Quinn Ewers is like, I mean, if you manage it right and you do it right, and the kid obviously has to perform, but when he comes out of school and he's got this prodigious talent and he's got all this ranking. You just got to manage him for 3 years, and that you have to see production and you have to see improvement. Like again, Dion is as much as it's easy and it's kind of, it's easy, but it's also very in vogue to trash Deion Sanders' prime time at Colorado. He's done a masterful job of getting Shedeur ready, because Shedeur is going to end up being the top pick in the draft. And again, Shedeur got to play his freshman year at Alcorn State, or Jackson State, excuse me, where he's playing in the SWAC versus guys. None of those guys are going to play in the NFL, so he kind of had like a redshirt year without having to redshirt, because he didn't have to play Texas and Oklahoma and big time opponent, Baylor, like teams that have real players. He gets to play in the SWAC for a year and play against guys that are basically like high schoolers. And that's no disrespect to the SWAC, but I mean, the talent just isn't there. They might have one guy get drafted a year, where when you come into the Big Ten and you got to play Oregon and Penn State and Michigan, you got to go on the road to hostile crowd. Like in the SWAC, there's no hostile crowd. Like they've got 10,000 people at every game. So it's never going to be loud. So he had a year to develop kind of not under the radar, because when you're with Deion, you're never under the radar. But this kid, again, the 10 million, it's great, family set for life, whatever. But he's got to go produce. And this is going to be one of those things where the eye of Sauron is going to be on him for everything he does. And he's kind of like that Shedeur Sanders lifestyle, where he's going to be the big NIL bonus baby, and I'm sure he's going to have a big car. If I could advise this guy, say, dude, go buy a pickup truck. Don't buy a Rolls Royce. Don't go to Cartier and spend all your money on jewelry, which again, these guys all have to do because they have to shine, which again, it's fine. I don't care. But I'd be like, dude, get a work truck. And just for 3 years, be like Tom Brady. Just get a work truck, drive to work in the work truck. You wear a hard hat, wear Timberland boots, like whatever. And because once you get to the league, if if you're the first pick, man, you're going to get, 5 or 6 times that number plus your endorsements. So, just stay low, whatever. But I just don't think that there's any talent around him, because when people are worried about him and the Ohio State Michigan rivalry, I'm like, well, who's he going to throw to? Who's going to coordinate the offense? Who's going to block for him? I mean, okay, great. They got a great quarterback, but have you seen their infrastructure, where it's when you look at Julian Sand or Tavian St. Clair, he's going to have J.J. Smith for 2 more years. He's got Ennis. He's got Tate. He's going to have a good offense. He's got Chip Kelly calling the plays. He's going to have whoever our running back is. It'll be James Peoples plus another 5-star superstar running back. So I don't know, but I know how this stuff ends, man. And it's I've seen these guys take this money, and when the money's great on the front end, because obviously everything's going to be love and honeymoon. But when you don't develop the kid and that draft stock starts to fall and there's infinite transfer portal, then, oh boy, does this guy say, well, man, I want to go to Steve Sarkisian at Texas, or do I want to go to Ryan Day, or do I want to go to Lincoln Riley? Because again, Lincoln Riley might be a terrible head coach and a fraud at USC, but he's made a lot of number 1 overall picks. He convinced teams in the NFL that Caleb Williams is the best player in the country. They took him number 1 overall, and he's been like the Hindenburg of Chicago. So I don't know. Like I said, I happy for the kid. It's a free market, free enterprise, whatever. But again, heavy is the head that wears the crown, man. And that 10 million is going to be great for the kid, but it's a lot of pressure when you're in a bad offense to try to lift up be the tide that lifts up all of the sinking ships that are around Michigan football. Nevada, what are your thoughts? Do you think that Bryce Underwood will go to another team? Because again, I just think that, man, the way that these kids transfer at quarterback, it's crazy to give to a freshman. Now, when you do this, you're clearing out the depth chart and you're handing him the keys to the car for the next 3 years, whether you like it or not. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, well, I've just never seen it work this way. I mean, I've never seen it work. You can say all you want about Ohio State's roster and whatever, but most of these kids were developed here. Most of these kids were brought in here, not as NIL babies, not being paid $10 million, or excuse me, LSU. It's saying it's closer to 13 or 14 million. So it's some ridiculous number right now. What is that? I don't know. I just have never seen this work. Now maybe it does. Look, I'm one of the guys that didn't think Bitcoin was going to 100,000. So what do I know? Maybe I'm just an old head that doesn't understand the new way of the world. And maybe this will work out swimmingly. Maybe he'll come in and do it. But with when you've got instantaneous free agency, you've got the NCAA stuff we've got to put aside because for Michigan, that's the wild card for those guys anyway. None of those guys can, they're going out there and saying, "Oh, this is going to be nothing." The kids don't care because for the kids, if it happens, they leave. So for them, it's like it's a no threat. They're not signing on. It's like not like you're signing on to the Navy for a 4-year hitch and you're going on some nuclear submarine and you can't get off in the Azores or something like that. This one you can leave anytime. So when Michigan gets hammered, they can bail, and for now they can just kind of say, look, I'll just take the money, I'll cash the check, I'll do here for Underwood. He's a hometown kid, wide open depth chart, and I'm going to be the savior, and I've already created generational wealth. So even if I suck, even if I never play it down in the NFL, I taken care of I can have created a nest egg for myself that's significant enough to live the rest of my life. I get that. I respect. I don't think it works from a college football standpoint, but I respect the decision that he made. But when you go to a place that does not have infrastructure, we've talked about this a million times. Quarterback play is always a function of what's around you, and the most important thing that's around you is your coach and your offensive coordinator. And when your coach and your offensive coordinator is Sharon Moore and some more, I don't care who Sharon Moore gets. Sharon Moore is a moron. Moron. I'm telling you, he will not survive there. He's terrible. Look at their team this year. Look how badly coached they are. Look just completely over his skis that guy is. And I personally think for Underwood, I don't think he will end. He'll start his career at Michigan, but he won't end it. And that's my line. I'd be willing to take book on that too. I'd be willing to make a bet. Anybody wants to bet that at -110 that Underwood ends up at a different place other than Michigan, I'd be willing to take that.
Yeah, I think that because you can see if this thing gets cloudy and Sharon gets whacked. Because I think how this will play out, he'll get there, he'll start as a freshman, and it'll be like Dylan Raiola. Like Dylan Raiola was God's gift to quarterbacking. He's been plain Jane average at Nebraska. He's been whatever, like okay. And then eventually when you're in the camp of, well, we have this prodigy and we need him to be like Shador. I mean, where do you send him? Send him to Lincoln Riley, send him to Sarkisian. Like again, like there's a reason why, those guys that are like Ryan Day, Sark, they just, they attract these quarterbacks. Cause again, quarterbacking is big money, man. I'm telling you, if your kid is one of these things, it's like you're sitting on a lottery ticket and you just got to manage it. You got to make sure that he doesn't get hurt, get him in a good system, get him around good talent. And that's like, like with Will Howard, like, people said, well, Will Howard isn't good and doesn't complete a lot of balls. And all of a sudden he comes into this system with J.J. Smith, Emeka, Trey, Quinshawn, great offensive line, Chip Kelly, Ryan Day coaching him. He goes from 60% to 80% completion. Like, again, guys could get coached up. And again, Ryan Day is the best quarterback developer in the entire country. And when he develops these guys, it's a blast furnace. It isn't, let's sit down and have tea and crumpets. And, as much as he's a mental health advocate, like when he's coaching these quarterbacks, man, he is really hard on these quarterbacks. So, but again, that's great because if you can survive the blast furnace of Ryan Day's positional meetings, then guess what? When you get on the field, it's going to be a cakewalk. So again, like there's method to the madness when Ryan's coaching these guys hard. And again, there's nothing in the world that's worse than when a kid leaves your program and he's underdeveloped. So if you got to go to the seventh circle of heck to develop a kid, then do it. And again, Ryan with CJ, with Justin Fields, with Will Howard, he's been incredible. So again, if my kid's a quarterback, and again, I said this with Dylan Raiola, and I know his dad obviously played with him in Detroit. He ends up going to Nebraska. Matt Rule, NFL guy, I get it. But man, if Ryan Day offers you a scholarship and you can go play for Ryan Day and get developed by Ryan Day, I don't know how you don't do it. I think it's crazy, but again, this is my opinion, but the proof's in the pudding on that one. But yeah, I think that there's no way this guy stays at Michigan for his entire career. Kevin Stylus, thanks for the deuce. When does Michigan have to respond to the NOA? It's, I think, Monday or Tuesday. Is that correct, Nevada?
Yeah, I believe it's like 4 or 5 days from now. Sometime in there. It's definitely within the next week.
Yeah, I think it's next week. they did it the week of the Ohio State game because the NCAA control too. Again, there's all this stuff is done with trolling in mind, and I applaud the NCAA for doing it. So that they had to turn it in the week of the Michigan game. MT3 Brian, thanks for the 5. Buckeye Scoop is the best in the business. We appreciate that, my man. But it's like Nevada and I always say, like, this is a big show because you guys make it one. We've got a huge live audience every night. It kind of drives the show. You guys bring great questions. The chat is always lit. Thank you to Steely and Sean Schrock. Appreciate you guys both. And all of our other regulars, Karis, Beth, all you guys that are in here every night. Love you guys to death. But you guys drive the show. So this isn't a one-way street. This is the Scoop family, so we appreciate all that you guys do to grow this thing, because again, this is it takes a lot of effort to go every night, but it's the highlight of our days, so it doesn't take that much. We roll out of the rack and get ready to roll, and Nevada we get each other kind of hyped up for the day, and what are we going to talk about, and then you guys always ask great questions, so it's always an awesome show. I think the players are feeling disrespected. I see this as a statement game. Buckeyes win big. Yeah, I think that I don't know if disrespect is right, because like it'd be one thing if Indiana's rated higher than us, but they aren't. But I think that when you've got a team that's talking a lot and they're confident, and you're just like, who are these guys? Like again, like if I'm an Ohio State player and I'm like, do you guys realize the amount of pressure? Like when you're an Ohio State player, how much pressure you have to deal with, and the expectations, and like you guys just showed up and people were picking you guys to go 4-8, and all of a sudden you guys are 10-0, and everyone loves you, and your coach is going to win the National Coach of the Year. And like Ryan Day could win every game in the regular season and in the Big Ten title, but if he doesn't win the national championship, he won't even get a vote for the National Coach of the Year, because that's where the standard is. The standard and the expectations are just way different. So I think that these guys need to get after them. I think that they need to let these guys know that they don't really have a chance, because Indiana doesn't really think they can win this game. They might have some sort of a false bravado or a false sense of, hey, we're going to come in here and we're going to yuck it up and we're going to talk trash. But, if they're talking a lot in the beginning of the game, if they're talking a lot of trash, then I'll say, yeah, these guys know that they have no shot, because I always say this to you, Nevada, and there's no sport in the world where it's truer than football. The scared dog barks the loudest. And like, if they're out there talking a lot, I'm like, these guys are scared to death right now. It's like a defense mechanism. So, but Nevada, your thoughts again, MT3 Brian, appreciate you, my man. Thanks for the 5. He says, Buckeye Scoop is the best in the business, Nevada. And again, we appreciate that. That is very kind of you. I think the players are feeling disrespected. I see this as a statement game. Buckeyes win big. What are your thoughts, Nevada?
Yeah, well, I think the Signetti comments where he said Ohio State sucks, I know it was kind of a, whatever you want to call it, off the cuff, pep rally remark, whatever. I mean, Ohio State's really playing up the disrespect angle with the players, and they're really trying to get to them in a bunch of different levels, with the comments from the national media guys, questioning the toughness. I mean, like I said, so the more that anybody can pick against us or do anything, the Ohio State coaches are really playing that angle up big time. The players. That's why I think that Ohio State's really going to come out with an edge on Saturday, and I think stuff like that does make a difference in games like this. And for Indiana, we'll see how long they can hang along. I've kind of got mixed feelings on, do I want Ohio State to come right down and score? Because I've seen games before where like you come out and you score on the first play of the game, an 80-yard bomb or something like that. And sometimes I think I don't know if it takes the air out of you, but it like, I don't know. I kind of like the build. I don't know if I'm saying that properly, but I've just seen teams like they get out too early, they get out there, and then just the other team kind of hangs around, and the game kind of drifts into that. I just want to see Ohio State just kind of lean on these guys and just slowly break them. And for me, the big thing is going to be defensively. We just got to get them off the field, break their will that way, because they think they can come out and control the ball, control the clock, run the clock down to 1 second. Chew the clock up with these long drives, kind of like what Northwestern did to us. Got out of that first quarter 0-0, and I think that that's clearly going to be the game plan for Indiana. And I think for Ohio State, it's just going to be, hey, can the Buckeye defense and the crowd get these guys off the field, break their will, and make a statement? And I really do believe that they will. I think that Ryan's done a great job of firing the guys up about this one. And I think they really, really this one's extra special. for a lot of reasons, but I think they want to put Indiana in its place. So I'm ready for it.
Yeah, I mean it's ballsy to come out and say that somebody sucks. Like, and again, I know that he was talking, but I mean, there's still truth behind that. They don't think much of us. So again, this is an opportunity to, because again, when you say that kind of stuff, you eventually got to come see us, and so you got to come see us in the Horseshoe, and we're really good. Then, I mean, I wouldn't forget that, and I'd be like, if we suck, wait till you see what we're about to do to you guys. Let's see what you guys think. So, Sean Schrock, thank you for being an Ultra member, and thank you for being a great moderator on here. Appreciate you, brother. Thank you and Steely for being on here every night. After seeing Scum fans on X cheering Seth's injury. Oh, I hate that. I hope Day runs up the score on them. Thank you, Kirk and Nevada, for always bringing it every night. You guys are the GOATs. Dude, I appreciate you so much. But again, it's the crowd. You guys bring it. And again, we appreciate the comments, the chats, even the audio feedback. I was messing with the audio, so I've had people text me say that it's a little off tonight, and I've had people say it sounds great tonight. So again, it drives me crazy, and I love you guys to death, and we really are trying to get the sound right. So we appreciate you guys for all of the feedback. Because that's what I told Nevada. I was like, because we were messing with it, and I had the sound guy on FaceTime today, and I was like, well, if it doesn't sound good, I'm sure that our folks will let us know. And again, we're fine with that, because again, we want to deliver a fantastic product to you guys. So thank you for all that. Yeah, I mean, people that cheer on an injury are, they're the lowest form of humanity. Like there's some people that are low, and that's like below that. I don't know. There's some miserable, terrible human beings out there. So if someone wants to root on an Achilles or whatever, like, it's fine. Again, that's their prerogative, and that's going to be their karma, and that's fine. Like, again, there's nothing we can do about it, but that no Michigan fan is going to feel bad for us. And that's, the one thing I love about Ryan Day is he was very candid. He's like, look, the thing that's great about football is it doesn't care what you've been through. I mean, we've had people lose their have a parent pass away during the season. We've had people, injuries, like severe injuries. Costa Kara George passed away in the season. Like, football doesn't stop for anybody. Josh Simmons tears his patellar tendon. They don't reschedule the game. Like, say, well, hey, let Josh get surgery and we'll play again next year. And like the football is a machine that just keeps moving. So, we lose our star center in the beginning of the week, and tears Achilles. Like, Indiana is not going to postpone the game for a year so that Seth can have surgery and recover, and we'll do it next August. Like, that's not how it works. So, that's part of it. But yeah, I don't want to say, I can't go in on Scum fans too bad, because I'm sure that we have there's segments of our fan base that aren't great, and they'll do something stupid when somebody gets hurt. And at the end of the day, like, if someone gets hurt, even if it's someone that you hate, it's better just to let it lie and just don't hit send on the Twitter machine, because you'll never regret not sending that tweet. Nevada, your thoughts on that? Sean Shockey in the next 10 says, after seeing Scum fans on X cheering Seth's injury, I said, I hope Day runs the score up on them. Thank you, Kirk and Nevada, for always bringing it each and every night. You guys are the GOATs. What are your thoughts, Nevada?
Yeah, I mean, I just think Michigan fans are the worst. I mean, I think it's a bad fan base. It's a fan base I have no respect for at all. And I like I said, I would never openly cheer for a player, because like you said, it's just bad karma, I think, to bring that on. But when Michigan fans do it, it's just par for the course, because they really are the worst fan base. If I had ranked all the fan bases, it's like Michigan and then like a step to everybody else, because they're just really despicable. And I'm so excited to see them get their comeuppance, and that's why I'm coming to the game in 2 weeks, and going to be there to watch the destruction firsthand, and to welcome all of our Michigan brethren to the Horseshoe. And I hope everybody welcomes them with open arms, and so they can watch the massacre occur on the field. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Imagine Wagons JVB, thank you for the 10. Do you guys see Michigan getting Bryce Underwood as a negative $10 million on one guy, so not a lot to spend on the rest of the roster? Plus, they could get NIL restrictions on top of it too, right? Of course it could be a negative if he doesn't play well. And again, I don't know who his advisors are, who his agent is, who his handlers are, but like the amount of publicity that number is getting, it doesn't help the kid. I'm just telling you. Like, I mean, it's cool, and you can stunt, and you can go get your moissanite jewelry or whatever. But I'm just telling you, like, dude, you need, like, you don't need everyone to run around and parade and tell you how much guys are making or whatever. Like, I mean, I feel like that's like a first time agent revealing it so that he can attract new clients. But I just, it reeks of desperation to me to pay 10 million for a high school quarterback. It really does. And I'm sure Michigan's good for the money because they don't have any talent on the roster, and so they, you know, it's like when an NFL team overpays for somebody in free agency, and then like 2 years later they're a bust and they're cutting them, and it's like one of the worst contracts in NFL history. Like it's like giving Deshaun Watson $300 million guaranteed, like a lot of money. Hope he can play. Hope he can recover from his 7 ACL surgeries and all of his off the field stuff, but. You know, it's great when they turn out great. Like, would Will Howard be worth 10 million this year? Probably. I mean, I think he's the most valuable player on the team, one of the best players in the country, and he's piloted the ship and he's the face of the franchise. But would Will Howard coming out of high school be worth that? No. Would CJ Stroud coming out of high school be worth that? No. I mean, I don't know. I mean, Quinn Ewers. I mean, imagine if we had to give Quinn Ewers. Quinn Ewers was the highest rated quarterback in the history of ratings, and if we would have given him 10 million as a freshman. Would we have regretted that? Yes, because he left after a year and went to Texas, became a starter there. So again, it's when you're desperate, you do something desperate like this. You know, like it's like, you know, if we had all of a sudden, you know, turned the show into like a pie eating contest because we were desperate for ratings, or turned this into Scoop Eats because we were desperate for ratings, then it reeks of desperation, you know. But we've got a great product here, and it's because we have great people that watch the show, and the folks love the show, and we appreciate you guys. But you know, when you got to go spend that kind of money on a high school senior, I'd be terrified. I really would. And that's me. I mean, it's like you look at quarterbacks going to the next level. Like Caleb Williams was the most can't miss, greatest prospect to ever live. And he's been an abject disaster. I mean, he got his offensive coordinator fired like halfway into the season. Anthony Richardson, 3rd overall pick last year, benched. Now he came back this week, and they're trying to ride with him. But, you know, the hit rate for quarterbacks in the NFL is abysmal in the first round. In college, it's like even worse because, you know, how many 5-star quarterbacks across the nation that have gone to Bama, Georgia, Ohio State, wherever, have completely flamed out? A lot. So you're betting a lot of money that you can buck the trend and that this kid's different than the rest of them. And you know, if you're 18, you give a kid 10 million bucks, like we'll see how that goes. And the other thing is like he's got to stay in state too. You know, if I'm this kid, man, I want to get if I get 10 million and I've got, you know, again, I don't know who his friends are, I don't know his background, I don't know anything, but like I would want to get as far away from my hometown as humanly possible. Because again, like when Dwayne Haskins got drafted by the Washington Redskins, that was not good for him. Because there were some guys that weren't great that were around him from his hometown, and it just didn't end well. You know, so you give me 10 million, like, and I'm from, you know, where he's from. I don't know if I want people to know where I live. I don't want people around me, because all of a sudden you become like an ATM machine for everybody that knows you, and I don't think he wants that. Nevada, your thoughts. Imagine Wagons, JVB, thanks for the 10. He says, do you guys see Michigan getting Bryce Underwood as a negative? $10 million on one guy, so not a lot to spend on the rest of the roster. Plus, they could get NIL restrictions up top of it too, right? What are your thoughts, Nevada?
Well, look, I think to your point, you made a great point, and you look at the NFL draft. The NFL draft, generally, you've had another 3 or 4 years to watch a quarterback play since high school. You've seen him play anywhere from 20 games to 40 games. You've evaluated him, you've interviewed him, you've put him through a combine, you've done background checks with special investigators. And as you said, the hit rate, maybe it's 50%. Maybe it's lower than that. After all that additional data. So what's the hit rate on a high school quarterback coming to college? Way below that. So you're going to throw the bag at somebody who's never played a down of college football before. Do I see a potential downside? Absolutely. Look at Texas A&M. Look what that they had the greatest recruiting class in the history. It was the highest rated recruiting class that's ever been recorded. And like every single one of those guys flamed out or ended up somewhere else or whatever. I mean, that was a disaster. You can't do it this way. This is not the way to do it. And you look at Michigan's roster for next year, and you kind of go, okay, well, look, they've got a couple of good players on the defensive line. Oh, they're both gone. Wait, like they got a terrific tight end. Oh, no, that guy's gone. Well, what? Will Johnson hasn't played, but he's gone. So like they don't have anything left. So you're going to bring this kid in who now you've thrown the bag at, who's making this big deal about, oh, I spurned LSU to take 12 million, 13 million, 15 million, whatever the number is going to turn out to be. And you're going to come here and throw him in right away with Sharon Moore as the head coach and the offensive coordinator. What could possibly go wrong with this? Well, I think the answer is a lot. And I think it's kind of, yeah, I won't say it's complicated. Again, good get for them. We want to be fair on the show. Good get for them. But do I see the potential downside of this? Oh yeah, I absolutely see the potential downside to this.
Well, let's flip this real quick, Nevada, because we're here. Like, if you found out that Ryan Day, you're the new GM of Ohio, you're the new athletic director, you're going to fix everything, make it great. If there was an offer on the table today for Ohio State to get Bryce Underwood at quarterback and supplant Tavian St. Clair, and you had to pay him $10 million, would you do it?
No chance. Absolutely no chance. I would never do that in a million years. I would never upset your quarterback room. I mean, obviously, I love Julian Saint. I love Tavian St. Clair. I love our development path for these guys. I love the infrastructure that we built, the support cast that we can put around them. I think doing that would be an absolute disaster. I wouldn't do that for any high school fight. Now, if you said to me, hey, next year Quinn Ewers wants to come back for one more year and they want to go with Arch Manning and he wants to play another year and you got a chance to get Quinn Ewers here, might think about it. Might think about it. But it would be I'd have to really think harder. But for a high school player, there is no chance in heck I'm ever doing that. Because I think it's crazy. But that's the stuff you do when you're desperate. That's the stuff that you do when you're trying to find relevance. You're trying to push any lever. Because Sharon Moore, think about Sharon Moore. Sharon Moore came into this job, and the popular take, the Joel Klatt take, was Michigan has found the system. They have found the system. They are tougher than everybody else, and they find the system, and they can just put anybody in there and just crank it out and crank out these wins. And it doesn't. Oh, and Harbaugh's gone. Doesn't matter. Strength coach gone. Doesn't matter. Mentor doesn't matter. Put Sharon Moore in there, and they're just going to win back-to-back natural preseason top 10. Blah, blah, blah. And they go 5-5 this year, and they're one of the worst offenses that we've ever seen in modern college football. And now you're like, what do you think, Strommer? Do you think Strommer's desperate? Oh yeah, he passed desperate about 5 games ago. So they'll do anything to try to protect him. So him throwing the bag at it, he doesn't care about the long term. He doesn't care about the effect on the room, the culture, the development system, anything else. He's just desperate to try to save. So he's making short-term decisions that are desperate in an effort to try to save his skin. And I've been seeing this movie too many times. It never ends well. And that final answer.
Yeah, because I think there is no culture. Again, because the way I look at it is if you say, okay, Kirk, you're now the GM, overseer, grand wizard of Ohio State, then I'm going to sit there and be like, well, if we give him $10 million, what do we have to give Caleb Downs and JJ next year? Because I know exactly what those guys make, and it ain't no $10 million. I mean, $10 million would cover, probably our top 5 guys, 6 guys, 7 guys. So they're all going to want to raise. If you're going to go give it to some high school kid who might not even play, and again, that was like the big thing with David Sanders Jr. Again, 5-star kid, people diving off the cliff after he went to Tennessee. And I'm like, well, he might show up to camp and not be able to beat out George Fitzpatrick. I mean, George might be better than him. George's about to be a 4th-year kid, big, strong kid, 6'7", tackle. Like, is David Sanders as a true freshman going to be better than that? I don't know. I mean, I know one thing. It terrifies me to give that kind of money to an 18-year-old. Because again, there's a very high outcome. If he's a lineman or a quarterback, he might not play as a freshman, or if he does, he's not going to be good. Dylan Raiola was the number 1 player in the world, not lighting the world on fire at Nebraska. Coaches are getting changed out, and again, I thought you look at Dylan, Nebraska lineage, and dad was a Cornhusker, and his uncle's on the staff there. They kind of basically strong-armed their way into him being the starting quarterback as a freshman, but he's not getting developed. Like he's going backwards. He didn't look good in the horseshoe. So, and it's a kid that transferred 3 or 4 times in high school, like went from Georgia or went from, Texas to Arizona to Georgia, like, moved all over the place. So the odds of him hitting the portal are pretty high. And I would guess that he got a huge NIL deal from Nebraska. Nebraska's got, a good amount of money. I mean, they're building a fortress out there because there's nothing else to do out there. And, so they are the Browns and the Bengals and the Cavs, and they're all rolled into one. Nebraska football's all there is. So I don't know. Bob Bino, thanks, 22, thanks for the 10. Appreciate you, my friend. If we lose Saturday, what would you say was the number one thing that went wrong for our defense and or offense? Defensively, defending the back shoulder fade. I think that our corners have got to play well. I think they're going to try to throw it a lot, and they're going to have to because they're going to be behind. And offensively, I'd say turn it over. I think Will Howard has gotten a lot of the turnovers out of his system. He's been really efficient in the last few games. So I'd say we turned it over on offense. And defensively, we didn't defend the back shoulder fades. Nevada, if we were to lose, if we were to lose, what would you say are the number one things that went wrong on offense and defense?
That we couldn't contain the quarterback running or scrambling. And offensively, that Carson and Austin just weren't Carson couldn't get his snapping down. Austin couldn't handle the pressure of stepping in, and the new offensive line kind of let us down. That's to me is the big question. That's something I'm going to be watching really closely. We're all going to be watching really closely early on. But to me, that's the path for Indiana to win.
All right, Nick Ma 71. Thanks for the 5. No joke, Nevada. I just watched Bryce Underwood's highlights. He has the Uncle Rico release. No wonder he didn't go to the Elite 11. Well, I mean, if a quarterback dodges the Elite 11, usually there's a reason for it. It's because he probably doesn't want to get evaluated more and potentially drop in the rankings. Because now these rankings are powerful, man. When a guy's a 5-star, he's worth a certain amount of money to programs. So, if you go to the Elite 11 and you stink it up and you drop to a 4-star, then it's going to cost you some money. So, I've seen his highlights. I think he's good. I don't know if I'd take him over Julian St. I want to take him over Tavian St. Clair. I think Tavian's got a higher upside. So, again, and I especially wouldn't do it with the combination of having Ryan Day coach. Your thoughts, Nevada? Again, Nick Monix for the 5 says, no joke, I just watched Bryce Underwood highlights. He has an Uncle Rico release. Great reference. One of the greatest movies ever made. That should have won every Academy Award known to man. Napoleon Dynamite, the cheapest budget of all time, one of the funniest movies of all time. No wonder he didn't go to the Elite 11. What are your thoughts, Nevada?
I mean, look, I think he's really good, but I don't. Do I think he's can't miss? No, I think he's far from can't miss. And so, to me, you're risking the entire cadoodle on a guy like this. I mean, I understand why they're doing it, but I would never do it because I agree with you. I think his bust potential is super high. Just because the bust potential on any quarterback coming out of high school. I mean, how many times have you? I mean, Justin Zwick was the highest rated quarterback. I mean, at the time, you lived this, but I mean, Zwick, as a recruiting fan, Zwick was the alpha and the omega and the savior for Ohio State football and the guy that was going to do it all, and couldn't play. So I mean, 10,000 yards or passing yards in high school, and so I don't know. Like I said, I don't get it with Underwood, but that's why these recruiting services go out there and they anoint certain guys certain ways. But when he didn't go to the Elite 11, that kind of was a red flag for me. And I totally agree with your assessment on the reason why.
Yeah, I mean, if you're scared to compete, because you saw Quinn Ewers and you saw Rayola and you saw guys go out there and shine. Again, it's the easiest thing if you've got arm talent and timing, like you can look amazing out there because there's no pass rush. It's just like, can you hit the target? Can you run a practice script? Can you do the combine drills? Like, it's not hard if you've got talent. Maurice Clarinet, thank you for the 5. Appreciate you, my friend. Larry Ellison, outed as a donor for Scum, and rumors he's pledging $10 million a year to their recruiting. Do we have a big fish like that, and can we get one? Nevada, your good friend Larry Ellison who could have owned the Warriors, is pledging $10 million a year for their recruiting. Do we have a big fish like that? Your thoughts, Nevada?
I mean, not like Larry. No, not many people have anybody like Larry. If that's true, I mean, Larry is about as deep pockets as they come. Big sportsman, and unlimited money. Absolutely. But this is what we always talked about with NIL: is that this would be a battle of the billionaires. Um, and so, does Ohio State have anybody like your Larry Ellison? No. But they've got a lot of well-heeled people that can step up and competitive people. And the best thing we have is we have Ross Bjork and Ted Carter, and those guys can raise money. And so, we're not going to get left behind when it comes to, to NIL. We'll be competitive, and we'll let Michigan get some of their little wins with this stuff, because I think they're deploying their capital wrong. And at some point, there's a reverse thing that kind of comes when you spend too much money and it comes boomerang back on you. And I just think they're deploying capital incorrectly by putting it all on a guy like Bryce Underwood. I think it's going to I think it's going to backfire on them spectacularly.
Yeah, and like that's not us being, because people are, oh, you're just jealous you didn't get. I'm like, no, like 10 million, like have fun, build out the rest of that roster. Because again, once you get that thought that you're the mark, and oh well, if Bryce Underwood is worth 10, then I can go there and get 2. I can go there and get 3. Like, because it's this, what does that do to the rest of your roster then? It's like, okay, well, what if you've got another good player on the roster and we just gave the freshman quarterback who's never played a down? Like, what's that do to your roster retention? I don't know. And is the kid even gonna like be good? Like, I mean, he hasn't proven he can play college football yet. And again, I've lived it as a player and a coach, and I see these 5 stars show up, and I've seen Army All-Americans show up, and they're there for 5 minutes, and I'm like, this guy's never gonna play. There's no chance. I mean, first practice. I'm not even talking about conditioning drills in the summer. I'm talking about first practice. I'm like, never going to play. Or if he does play, he'll be a role player, good kid, whatever. But he's not going to be some game-wrecking, Aaron Donald defensive tackle, Pat Mahomes, like legendary type guy. And so when you pay like Lamborghini money and you end up getting like, a Fiat, it doesn't really work out for the numbers. And like, if it's like Nevada, like you always say, like you could have infinite money. You could be Larry Ellison and be worth a ton of money, but like at some point, does it get old giving $10 million away and watching a team go 6-6? Probably. I mean, he heats you up a little bit. I know that. Like, I'm not going to be giving that kind of money away and then watch the products stink, because that's what's going to happen. Because again, this kid is a lottery ticket right now for his family, for his agent, because these agents, once they get their tentacles around one of these prodigy quarterbacks, like it's kind of like their last payday. If you get, say this Underwood kid is the best thing that's ever lived, and he wins the Heisman, is the first overall pick, gets the big second contract. Like if you're an agent, you can get 3% of, I don't know, $300 or $400 million, then you're set for life. So there's a lot of pressure to get this kid in the right situation. So if you get to Michigan and you look around and your offensive line stinks and you've got a moron as a head coach and your receivers can't get open and your running backs are slow and your running back coach is worthless, then all of a sudden you're like, well, damn, we got to get this guy to somewhere. We got to get him somewhere where they can develop a quarterback or somewhere where they can showcase his skills. Because again, if I'm managing this kid, man, he's going to Ryan Day, Steve Sarkisian, Lincoln Riley. That's it. One of those 3, because those guys have proven that they can put guys in the first round. They know how to develop quarterbacks. If they have offers from those guys, that's where they're going. Period. Point blank. Because they're proven. I mean, it's too volatile to not go with the proven entity. And those guys are all proven entities. So that's my opinion. Yeah, I don't know if we don't have a fish like that. We've got a lot of fishes though, and I thank God every day for the foundation, because those guys are raising money like crazy right now, and they're keeping us hyper competitive in this world. So again, give to the foundation guys, get the tax write off, doing great work. Appreciate you, Brian, because again, that's it's a thankless job, and let's just call it what it is. It's a thankless job to call and ask for money for college athletes, but it got us. I mean, you guys like watching Caleb Downs and Trey Henderson and Will Howard like I do. Like, thank those guys. Sergio Sama, thanks for the deuce. Brian Kelly to Michigan for the rebuild. That would be hilarious if he spurned Brian Kelly and then Brian Kelly went to Michigan. I don't know why Brian Kelly. I think his stock is dropping, but I don't think that Michigan's a better job than LSU. I don't think. Now, Nevada, you could correct me, but if you say, Kirk, you get to go be the head coach at one of the two, like I look at the Big Ten now. 5 years ago, no Oregon in the Big Ten. Okay, SC could eventually bounce back at some point. But now it's like, man, I'd rather go to LSU because at least I know I'm going to get big time defensive players at LSU, and then I just got to figure out the offense. But Michigan, it's like there's not much talent in the state of Michigan, and Michigan's not en vogue anymore. Even though they won the title cheating last year, they're just not. They don't have the national recruiting footprint that they used to have. Like when I was the olden days, and again, I'm not trying to go in the Wayback Machine, but it's like, they'd get a quarterback from California, they get a receiver from Jersey, they would get guys from Texas. Like, I don't see the national footprint that they used to have. I mean, they used to be the most national team in the Big Ten. Now that's us. But I don't see that anymore. But Nevada, your thoughts? Brian Kelly against Sergio Salmon, thanks for the deuce, says Brian Kelly to Michigan for the rebuild. What are your thoughts, Nevada?
Oh, well, no, I think it's obviously a great, funny thing. I mean, no, Michigan job is not better than LSU. Brian Kelly's star is definitely fading right now. And, look, if I was, what would scare me way more about Michigan than them getting $10 million and spending it on Underwood would be if they went out and got a real coach. Because I don't care who they have, as long as Sharon Moore is their head coach, we got nothing to worry about. Because Sharon Moore is terrible. He's terrible. And he'll have a terrible program, and they'll underachieve. And so Larry Ellison in the champion circle, they can put out all the money that they want right now. But as long as, until they deploy the capital correctly, which the answer for Michigan is get a new coach. If they get a new coach, I think Michigan could get it back. But as long as Sharon Moore's there, and that's why, like I said, when you combine Sharon Moore with NCAA sanctions, it's going to be a long time till Michigan's relevant again. And Larry Ellison's money is not going to change that. But Brian Kelly, not sure he's the answer.
Yeah, I agree. Studley Budley, thanks for the 10. Appreciate you, my friend. Tegra worries about me against stiff competition. What would the play be if he needed taken out against Michigan, for instance? Well, I mean, really, the next guys up are George Fitzpatrick at tackle and Luke Montgomery at guard. So if you put a gun to my head and say, Kirk, what's the best combination? I'd put George out at left tackle. I'd put Donnie at left guard, fortify the inside, and kick Austin Sourville over to right guard. I think that's the move. Again, a lot of these guys they're getting activated now, man, because you're a guy like Josh Padilla, man. You're one play away from being in the game versus Indiana. And, a couple weeks ago, you're two guys down the totem pole, but now it's like if something happens to Carson, like, it's Padilla time, which again, it's good. I mean, these guys they're itching to play. And, but I would, it's either you put in Luke at left guard and, you bump Austin over to right guard, or you put George in and you bump Donnie down. So those are the two plays. Nevada, do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think it'd just be Luke. I think it'd be a plug and play with Luke. You'd put Luke in there and leave everybody else. And not ideal, but, nothing's ideal, when we're talking about a scenario of losing 4 starters off the offensive line. So, we're down the list of hypotheticals, but could it happen? Hey, we're down 3. So we could definitely get to a 4th, but I'm fingers crossed that that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I mean, in the last 20 years, I don't think we've ever lost 2 guys for the year that were, especially guys that are that good. So it's strange times, but got to get over it. Paul Lewis, what is up, brother? I hope you are doing great tonight. Thank you for the 50. You're the best. Appreciate you, my man. Hope you and your lady are doing great. Hi, guys. OSU 31, Indy 13. I'd probably go 31-20, but I love that pick. I think that our defense is really good. Indy has not seen a defense like ours. I don't care who they think they've played. They haven't seen our defense, and our pass rush is going to get after these guys. So I like that score. Nevada, Paul Lewis, again, thanks for the 50. He says 31-13. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's a good score. I mean, I don't think Indy's going to score more than that. Our defense is too good. You might get one drive and a couple of field goals, but I think 13's about right and 31's about right. I'm flipping between 28 and 31. So yeah, I think Paul's got it nailed.
Rob Sess, thanks for the deuce. Carter Smith from Olentangy Liberty would have been nice right now. Miss. Yeah, I mean, obviously, once we're down this many guys, it'd be nice to have Carter, but I don't know if he's better than George Fitzpatrick. I mean, he started, but he went to Indiana. He didn't go to Ohio State. If he was at Ohio State, he'd be a backup, and nobody would even know he exists at this point. We took Tager over him, but big weekend for Carter. Again, he's a kid that entered the portal after Tom Allen got fired, and then they convinced him to say they gave him a huge NIL deal. So good for Carter. Again, he's an Olentangy kid. Happy for him. Again, I'm sure that his folks are going to be excited to see him in the horseshoe. But he reached out to Ohio State, and Ohio State said they weren't interested in him. So we'll see if that was a good decision, a poor decision. I don't know. Again, you can't project that Josh Simmons is going to tear his patellar tendon and we're going to be down a tackle, but I don't think he would have started over Josh Fryer or Josh Simmons. But when a guy gets hurt, it is what it is. But Carter, he wasn't going to come here to be a backup when he could start he got offered by Ole Miss and Florida State, and they were all offering him starting jobs. So you'd had to guarantee him as a starter, and I just don't think he's better than Josh Simmons or Josh Fryer. It's just my opinion. Nevada, your thoughts? Rob Sess, thanks for the deuce, says Carter Smith would have been nice right now. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, now you went right to the heart of the matter. Carter Smith was not coming here to back up, and you've got two starting tackles. So, yeah, the dream would be you bring him in and you sit him down, and on the off chance that one of those guys gets hurt, and they get hurt, and then you bring him in. Yeah, that'd be nice, but that's just not a realistic scenario. He was going someplace to play, to start, and you had two starters there. You had a potential All-American and a returning All-Big Ten guy at tackle. And frankly, even now, when is Carter Smith better than Donnie Jackson at left tackle or Josh Fryer at right tackle? Nope, not better than either one of those guys. So I think we're fine. I mean, it'd be nice. It'd be nice to have infinite thing, but you got to be realistic about who you can get.
Well, yeah, and like I said, when Ole Miss is offering to make him a starter, I mean, Ole Miss is top 15 team. Like they said, you could be a starter. I mean, Indiana's turned into a top 5 team. Like, it is what it is. I mean, and you're going to see a lot of attrition going forward now that they're moving the roster size to, I believe, 125 or 120, and they're getting rid of walk-ons, which I think is the dumbest decision in the history of college football. I hate it. But you're going to see a lot of these guys, these linemen transferring out because you're going to, by definition, you're going to be able to take 2 or 3 more scholarship offensive linemen. But you're going to see a lot of these guys leaving because they're going to want to go play. They're going to be buried on the depth chart. So, I think that they played it right. And again, I just don't, if George Fitzpatrick or Tigra go to Indiana and start as, freshman or redshirt freshman, and Carter's here, then, does anybody even know Carter exists at this point? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But I mean, they had George and Tiger rated ahead of Carter at tackle, and they took him and they believed in him. And the other thing is like if you take Carter, then you're going to lose, a couple of your backup guys in the portal. Your backup tackles are going to take off because that's how it is. Like just because you bring someone in, this isn't the NFL where if you sign a free agent, you still have guys under contract. If you bring a guy in, you're going to lose guys. That's just how it works. So. Like I said, I've seen George in those games, like at the end of these games, and he looks great. I mean, I think he's a guy that, if they put him in there, it wouldn't look terrible. He's a big, tall kid. He looks like Taylor Decker to me. He's just not playing yet. So we'll see. Nicholas Wing, thanks for the deuce. Is Brandon Underwood the kid that Stallions went to recruit? Yeah, Connor Stallions joined the coaching staff in the middle of the playoffs, and then magically he goes to Michigan. I don't think Connor had anything to do with it, but I'm sure that Connor feels like he did. So that's how he rolls. Nevada, Nick Wing, again, Nicholas Wing, thanks for the deuce. He says, is BU the kid that Stallions went to recruit? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm trying to decide what had more to do with it. Connor Stallions being an unpaid assistant on the team or Larry Ellison's $10 million. And I'm leaning towards Larry Ellison's $10 million. But that's just me. So, yeah, I don't think Stallions had anything to do with this, but he was there.
All right, Nevada, let's wrap this thing up. Any final thoughts on you and Larry Ellison's battle to be the NIL Kings?
No, Larry's going to win. Larry's got more money than I do. Larry's going to win. But I beat Larry when it counted, man. I beat Larry one time when it counted.
That's right, baby.
Zinger, Larry.
Golden State Warriors, baby. You are the founding member of the Splash Brothers. Nevadabuck Splash Brother.
1-0 against Larry, and I'm going to retire undefeated and
Oh
valid. But
God.
yeah, 48 more hours till we get to lay it on Indiana. It's going to be a great game. I'm going to say it right here. I do not care if we win by 1 point. I don't care if we win 3-2, 2-0. Doesn't matter. Style points mean nothing. Just win, move on, get to Michigan. Let this offensive line have a chance to cook. But I really think we're going to play well. I think we're going to play a complete game, and I think we're going to lay it on Indiana on Saturday.
Yeah, I agree with you. That being said, appreciate you guys kicking us on Thursday. I know the Browns have kicked off, so I know you guys are running over to that. But thank you guys for being a part of the show. If you guys enjoy this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, also click that little alert bell. Again, we appreciate you guys. Toss your score predictions down in the comments, and also shout out who you guys are watching with. Where you guys are watching from. Shout out to my Buckeyes all over the world. And we can see where you guys are watching from. It's incredible, and the growth is palpable. If you want to do something huge for us, give us a follow on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Again, those are two things we're trying to grow. Search Buckeye Scoop on your podcast app inside of your iPhone. Super easy to do. Click subscribe. It's the best thing literally you can do for Nevada Night at this point is we're trying to grow that. We didn't grow it for the first 5 years, so we're trying to grow it a little bit now. And again, every little bit counts, and it's completely free. So thank you. Again, if you guys want a great Christmas gift as we're heading towards Black Friday, consider joining BuckeyeScoop.com. You can also give it as a gift. Reach out to us if you have any questions at BuckeyeScoop@gmail.com. Again, we appreciate you guys so very much. With that being said, thank you so much, Buckeye Nation. Thank you, Scoop family. It's getting close to time to beat the Hoosiers. So we're going to get ready to roll. We appreciate you guys so much. You guys have a great night. Go Brownies and go Bucks.